best car I've ever driven out of all the cars I've been able to experience in my life. And the car, of course, is the Audi S8. It is the most technologically advanced car I've ever driven. It is the best driving car I've ever driven. It's one of the most powerful cars I've driven. Most importantly, it is the most expensive car I've tested here on this channel. So you'll need to save up $273,400 before on-road costs for a standard S8. But then if you want to get this spec here with this color in firmament blue and also a $19,000 sensory package, which includes a few features like extended leather and an upgraded sound system, you're gonna have to pay $292,400 before on-road costs for this car here, meaning that the drive-away price will be well over $300,000. And if you just so happen to be cross-shopping with a couple of other luxury cars, you could check out something like the Lexus LS, the BMW 7 Series, or even the Mercedes S-Class. And it's also the first production Audi with collision avoidance systems, which is like a pre-sense technology. So it has 4 stages and it works to help avoid an accident. And in case you can't prevent an accident, it actually folds up the rear windows and puts up the rear blind to prevent any glass flying around if it just senses a collision has to happen. But it tries to avoid it in the first case, and it was something that was competing with the Mercedes S-Class with their pre-sense technology. Now that Audi A8 range has featured some pretty cool motors, and it even got a W12, but this Audi S8 features a 4-litre V8. And this car's always been in fierce rivalry with something like the Mercedes S63, and it's always been a bit of a coin toss of which one would you buy. Now here is the pride and joy of the Audi S8. It is a 4-litre twin turbocharged petrol V8. It's Audi's TFSI motor, but you'll see it in other Audi cars that feature this V8 as well. And you'll see it in some of Porsche's cars and also some of Bentley's cars. But here it makes 420 kilowatts, which is over 500 horsepower and 800 newton meters of torque. It also can run as a V4, so it can turn off 4 cylinders for cylinder deactivation. And that means it will save you a bit of fuel when you're coasting and you don't need all that power of a V8. Now, I wanted to show you under here because the presentation is unreal. You have these really cool struts which help with keeping this car nice and rigid. You also have heaps of air intakes, and what I really liked were the dual air intakes for this motor, which you can see right in here, and they look like something you'd see on a modified vehicle. And Audi claims this car in launch control can go from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in just 3.8 seconds. But here's the thing, Car and Driver over in the States tested this thing from 0 to 60 miles an hour, which is 97 kilometers an hour, in just 3.3 seconds. So that 3.8 figure is probably very understated. This thing can probably crack that quite easily if you're trying to test that figure. Now, in traditional Audi fashion, the V8 is pushed right to the front. So pretty much the entire block is ahead of the front wheels, but we'll see how that affects handling in just a moment. Now you're getting chrome up here on the front. You get an Audi S8 badge here, and I really like the little chrome effects in the grille. It looks quite nice, but I like how subtle the S8 badging is. That's really the only giveaway from the front that this is a more potent Audi. Now you've got these really beautiful headlights. They are awesome. They have little Audi logos in them. They light up with an awesome animation, and they can individually light up little pixels to actually give you a light show when you turn this on at night. Very quick to adapt, and they also will avoid dazzling drivers because they can block out parts of the headlight for oncoming drivers. But if you take a closer look here, you can see in the Audi grille there's actually a little sensor in there, and you have another radar sensor down here and another sensor up on the windshield. This car is constantly scanning and reading the road because this has adaptive suspension, and also it wants to be very safe as well. So we'll get more into how that works when we're out driving. Now, I'm a big fan of the fact that this car does not have 22-inch wheels. Instead, it has a modest 21-inch wheel. And then you have red brake calipers in here, and this isn't fitted with Audi's optional carbon ceramic brakes, but you can fit that if you'd like. But I found that this set works pretty well. And then we have this wrapped in a Goodyear tire. Now, I love the fact that Audi never tampered with the big sedan formula. As the car gods intended, the Audi A8 has always been a true sedan. It didn't turn into a liftback, it didn't turn into an SUV, which I absolutely love. And I really do like the side profile of this thing in the short wheelbase. The long wheelbase turns into a bit of a limousine, but here it looks quite good, and I love the proportions. Now, a subtle way to tell this is an Audi S8 is that all S8s get these silver mirror caps. You also get silver around the windows and also down on the side skirts. You also do get keyless entry and locking for both doors. And what's cool is that because if you might have mobility problems or anything like that, and just for help of ease of entry, Audi's air suspension system actually rises 50 millimeters in less than a second when you go to unlock and get into the A8, as it will do right now, which is incredible. So you'll never have people complaining that you bought a large sports sedan because the mobility to get in and out is pretty much the same as a small crossover. And then once you're in, it will automatically lower itself down. The Audi S8 does take premium petrol, as you would expect, and that's your fuel filler cap, which is pretty standard on the side. Now, the rear of the S8 is a dead giveaway that this is a performance sedan. Of course, you have an S8 badge here, and you also have these mean, real quad tailpipes, which don't have any sort of smaller pipes on the inside. These are the real deal, and they look, and as you can hear, sound fantastic. There's also things like a missing rear wiper. There is no rear wiper here. The air just pushes off any dirt and water. It does an okay job of that. And then the rear deck here as well on the boot lid doesn't actually have any sort of spoilers or any sort of aero. It's just very slick. And it's a little flick at the back here, but nothing major. Now, what I love is this rear light bar. It does a really cool light dance at night, which looks fantastic. And it just sort of shows to everyone that, yes, I've got a very nice over-engineered Audi. And to help with cornering, Audi have put rear wheel steer on the S8. That means that the rear wheels will turn opposite of the front wheels at low speed to help with maneuvering, and then at high speeds, the rear wheels will turn with the front wheels to help corner. Now, when you rest your arm on the windowsill, you might feel these windows feel a little uneven, and that's because they are double glazed, and you can see that right here because it's really twice as thick as normal glass. It's not for bulletproofing or anything like that. It's simply to block out outside sound, which works extremely well. Now, this is a very spacious boot here in the back. It's great for suitcases, and of course, there's a reason why a lot of hire car drivers use an Audi A8, and the S8 is no different. There's plenty of space back here. You get a medical kit as well because this is a high-end Audi. Of course, you get that. There's a 12-volt socket here in the back as well, and there's some netting to put some small items here in the back, but unfortunately there's no spare tire underneath the boot floor. But if you want to put very long items through, like skis for example, there is a ski pass-through for the middle seat if you need to do that. But of course, if you're buying this and you're going to be hauling large items around, this isn't going to be the car for you. This will fit suitcases, but if you're doing trips to IKEA every weekend, don't buy this. It's still very practical though, but yeah, it's something that you know that you're going to be hauling very high-end luggage here in the back, which will be most likely fitted for your car. And this is sort of a given at this price point, but this does have soft closed doors, which work very well. And these door handles aren't really door handles. They're like buttons to push an actuator to actually prop your door open like that. Isn't that wild? Now, of course, it's all about luxury here in the rear seats. Now, the front seats are very nice, and this is a driver's car. But if you don't want to drive, you can sit here in the back and really enjoy yourself. First of all, you get these almost memory pillow-like plush headrests, which are unreal. Now, you get carbon fiber in your vision here on the back of the seats and here on the doors. We have leather around the doors and everywhere. There's Napa leather just dressed everywhere in this car. Now, you get a very nice headliner, which is like a suede type material here, and you do get microphones here in the back, so if you need to make phone calls from the back, it's going to be nice and crystal clear. Now, I'll get to this armrest section in a second. I have good knee room and I have decent feet room as well, and that can all be adjusted very easily from these seat controls here in the armrest. If you don't want this armrest here, you can put this up and away, and it will automatically do that for you. And if you do want to put someone in the middle seat, you can. There are still two 12-volt sockets here if you need to sort of charge anything. And you do have these air vents, which do have touch controls, which is very, very luxurious. You do have these map pockets here as well for things like newspapers, for example, because that's what you read when you're going on long trips in the back of an Audi S8. Now, this center armrest that I showed you earlier, this is wild. So you can access the boot through the middle here, which is pretty useful. And then you do have a little bit of storage here with two USB-C ports if you need. But we have a rear seat remote here. This controls things like the seats, so I can control the front seats just like this, for example. So I can push it forwards and go, yep, I want to give this passenger more room. By the way, the seat next to me is the best seat in the house. If you ever sit in the back of any sort of luxury car, you don't want to sit behind the driver, you want to sit behind the passenger seat, because that's where you're going to get the most amount of room. Now, I can access my massage functions. I can also have my ventilation turned on the seats, or heating in the back as well. And then, yeah, I can go back here and control the lights in here as well from this little screen. I can control the blinds, so it's a bit sunny here, so let's go ahead and actually turn this one up, shall we? So the rear right, very good. and that pops out of a little hidden cubby and does it all automatically, as it should. Now we've also got things for our media controls, so we can control all the speakers in here from the rear seats, and we can also control our radio, and yes, we can access our TV. This car does have satellite television, so you can watch normal television when you're stationary on that screen there at the front, but if you do have the extra screens fitted in this car, they will be able to watch it here in the back as well. And you can adjust your sound settings in the back if that's what you want. Now these seats do recline. You can slide the base forwards, which is incredible. So if you want to get more of a sleep and more reclined, you can do that. And then the front seats can move forward if they need to. And then to open the door here, you just pull on this little button, which looks like a door handle, and it'll prop the door open. But I found it to be a little bit tricky to get used to because it's not quite a door handle and it's not quite a button, so it requires you to sort of pull it a little bit and it sort of pops open. I've had a bit of trouble with this and it hasn't really been the smoothest door operation for a car that's this expensive. Now the front seats and the presentation of the dashboard up here is unreal. Now, it doesn't really have the technology of the new BMW 7 Series or the Mercedes S-Class, so it does feel a bit more basic up front, but that's not a problem. I think the finish and the attention to detail here really just takes command, and you don't wish you had more screens or more lighting. You just really enjoy what's given here and how beautifully it's all presented. Like those Bang & Olufsen tweeters which rise out of the dashboard, that's part of that $20,000 sensory package, and that's insane. These are upgraded speakers and the sound quality in here, it is almost a spiritual experience. Now you have carbon fiber running up here on the dashboard, and you also have it around the shifter and around the center console here as well. And then what's cool is that your air vents up front do have those same haptic controls you have in the rear, but if you don't want them to be on, they will actually close and shutter to give you a more uniform look across the dashboard. We have extended leather up here on the dash as well. We have a heads-up display, and we also do have more leather and stitching up on the top of the doors. There is lots of gloss black plastic in here, and I'm just not the biggest fan of that. It just leaves a lot of fingerprints and dust, but I guess it's something that sort of just looks better inside here. But maybe I would have liked to see more carbon fiber or maybe wood inlays, something to replace that gloss black plastic look. And just like other Audis I've tested, we have Quattro stamped on the passenger side, which is very interesting, and we also do have a decent sized glove box, which is all very beautifully felt lined. Now, a driver's display here is very usable. It's very customizable. It has a lot of features in here as well. All your trip information, you have things to control even your TV channels if you want as well. But what I found awesome is that it does have infrared night vision. It's the first car I've ever tested to have it, and it's been very useful. It will actually spot people before your eyes can, which is unreal. And so this center cluster is awesome. You can have big gauges, you can have small gauges, and you can even change the different gauges you want here. So you can have more performance oriented gauges because this is a performance oriented car. Now we have these S seats I'm sitting in, which are awesome. They have S embossed in them and they're very comfortable, but the headrests aren't as comfortable as the back, and they are massaging, heated, ventilated, all those good things, and they also have plenty of lumbar support as well. Now this screen here is a traditional Audi screen we've seen in other Audi models, and does have things like wireless Apple CarPlay and all that. It's very easy to control, but there are some additional controls in here, like I mentioned, to control the different displays on your driver's display, and you can go into your car settings here and change your drive modes and also look at your car details and all that sort of stuff. So there's nothing too different here. Now on the lower screen here, yes, there's two screens up front, you do have all your controls for your climate. Now your climate controls also include cabin ionization and of course perfume. Yes, you have a winter scent and a summer scent, and you'll always smell better after driving the Audi S8. Now you can also control the rear blind from this screen here as well, so if you need better vision out the back, even though the vision's been perfect even when it's up, it's just a bit darker, you can lower that if you need to. Now something that's sort of annoyed me a little bit are these touch sensitive buttons down below for your Audi Drive Select, so your different drive modes, and your also things for like your stability control, your hazards, and also your front and rear defrosters. More so it's the drive modes. I found it really finicky to drive because they're not physical buttons, they're haptic, and they require like a bit more of a press, and it's just not as smooth as I'd hope. I just wish there was a dedicated button, and even the configurable button you can activate here on the steering wheel doesn't allow you to change drive modes from the steering wheel. Now we do have beautiful buttons for our volume controls and also things like our parking sensors and parking assists, and also our start engine stop has a red ring around it to let everyone know this is a bit more special. Now the shifter is a traditional Audi shifter. Like I said, it's dressed in carbon fiber, it looks great. All the buttons sound delicious. They're so buttery, and they also look great, and it's very easy to navigate this. The steering wheel feels awesome in the hand. It's Audi's sports steering wheel, so it looks really cool, a bit more special than a traditional A8 steering wheel. And then you do have basic controls for controlling your screen and trip information. There's nothing too complicated going on here. Now, there are some little storage pockets in the doors, both in the front and rear, which have felt lining, which I thought was quite cool, just for a bit more storage. And then here in the center armrest, we do have a little wireless phone charger, which has a little clip in it to keep your phone in place, which works really well. 2 USB-C ports as well. And one of the most over-engineered like hinges for a center armrest I've ever seen in my life. It is the thickest amount of metal, and it's just unreal. I looked at that and I went, oh my gosh, this is just the most beautiful set of hinges I've seen in any car, and for an armrest. Now, we do have a sunroof up here. Audi calls this a panoramic sunroof, but yeah, it's just a standard sunroof, and it does open as well. And yes, if you are wondering if a $300,000 car can pass the sun visor test that the straight pipes made so famous, it absolutely does. But if you ask me, I think the Audi S8 interior is just so easy to use, and it's just so easy to get comfortable very quickly, and it's a great place to spend a lot of time. But this isn't what just makes the Audi S8 special, it's how it drives. Oh my gosh. So with 420 kilowatts and 800 newton meters of torque, this is a monster of a performance luxury sedan. Now look, this isn't going to replace your RS6 or your RS7. Those are completely different cars in terms of driving goals. The Audi S8 is designed to give driving pleasure and get you to a destination very quickly, but it's not designed to do it in a way that's going to be better than a purpose-built performance car. Now, the RS brand obviously is more aggressive, so the S brand is going to be a bit warmed up compared to, say, a top-end A8. So it's going to be a bit more aggressive. It's going to have a growly exhaust note. It's going to have bigger brakes. It's going to have performance-oriented suspension and driving dynamics, but it's not going to be a race-tuned car, which is what the RS models are in Audi's lineup. This is my first time driving an A8, and we're starting off with the S8, which is a big step up. Now, the price tag is humongous, but like I mentioned, this is one of the more affordable models against something like a Porsche Panamera GTS or Panamera Turbo, and even against something like a top-end BMW 7 Series with a more powerful petrol motor and a Mercedes S63. It really feels like you're rocketing around on a ground-dwelling private jet or a road-going power yacht. This thing is so luxurious. Shifts are seamless, so they're not too aggressive. I'm here in dynamic mode, and this thing still feels far more plush than something like an SQ7 in dynamic mode. Now, this is really quite nice. The build quality is insane. I'm cocooned in this car, and it is just luxurious to drive around, and the power is plenty, and the ride is extremely comfortable. The seats are very supportive. I can hardly hear traffic moving past. There's a bit of road noise from the tires here, but that's really all the noise I'm getting. Wind noise and buffeting is like none, and it's just incredible. Now, the steering feel here is, yeah, it's not going to be the most engaging, but it's quite nice how dynamic it is. So in Comfort Plus mode, you're not really going to get anything too excessive. And then when you're here in dynamic mode, you are going to get yourself a bit more driving feel. Now, here we go. We're going to go from 50 to 80 kilometers an hour and show you how quick it is to kick down a gear in 3, 2, 1. Yep, that was 80. That's how quick it is to go mid-range. It's quick to drop down a gear. It will hold a gear a little bit thinking, do you want to keep going? And I say no, because I'm not putting in more inputs. And then I'm going to take this thing back into Comfort Plus mode. Yeah, this doesn't have a normal Comfort mode. Audi have given this a Comfort Plus mode. Now, the amount of sensors and technology on this car, I'm just not qualified to run through it all. I would need to interview someone from Audi to explain it all to you in very in-depth detail. But basically, I can tell you in layman's terms what's happening. So there are a ton of sensors on this car on the front, and it's constantly analyzing the road from all the way down the lower part of the bumper all the way up to the windshield. It's just analyzing the road constantly. And that means the ride is always perfect. This has individually controlled hydraulics for each wheel, and so that means that each wheel is getting its own information on how it should react to the road it's riding on. That means when you glide up to speed, it just feels like it's wafting over the road. It's insane. I actually was quite dumbfounded when it went over a speed bump in my local area that I am so used to slowing down for and all the time, and I went at a relatively slow pace, and then I felt the car prop up, and then it just completely glided over. It floated over this speed bump. It's what it felt like. So the body of the car stays rigid while the wheels are moving inside the housing, because there's this very dynamic air suspension. Feels like something that'd be very expensive to fix if you bought this car in a few years' time, but as it works as a brand new feature, it is just awesome. And then it creates a ride that is addicting. It ruins the ride quality of any other car you'll go in. It doesn't matter if it's a comfortable car, but this thing will just make that car feel like a sports car by comparison. This is luxury driving at its finest. So I was seeing figures just below 10 liters per 100 Ks, which is actually very impressive. But then my average has been around 13 liters, 12 liters per 100 Ks. That's a very impressive fuel figure, I have to say. Now, is it worth getting the $19,000 sensory package that this car has? I would say absolutely. If you're going for gold, you may as well just go all out. And it means you get better speakers, you get rear massaging and ventilated seats as well, and you get that extended leather, so you can really make this cabin feel quite special. Now, I really feel like this is a luxury land yacht because it just glides along the road. The steering's light, but it's not uninvolved. I still feel like I've got plenty of control and feel of the car through the wheel, and you're just gliding along. And then when you want to put the power on, it just seamlessly rolls it on. It's just, there's no big gear changes. Like, I really appreciate that. It's just something I've just never really noticed. It's not because it's got multiple gears in this gear box. It's not like a CVT or a single gear, but it just rolls onto the next gear, and you will hear the gears change, but it's nothing too dramatic. Even in dynamic mode, I found the suspension to be very comfortable. So it means you can showcase this car to either your rear passengers who are expecting a comfortable ride, or to anyone else, and they're not going to complain that you're driving in dynamic mode, although you can have a fair bit of fun in this mode. And this power is just immense. This thing will rock up to a limited top speed of 250 kilometers an hour, and that's plenty fast for Australia. Now, I've heard people complain that this is too much power for Australian roads, and I don't think so. I think it's an adequate amount of power if you know how to respect it. It's enough power to get you gliding up to speed, but if you're absolutely laying onto the throttle, you will be going ridiculous speeds in no time. But when you're not, 800 Newton meters of torque is a perfect amount of power for a big luxury sedan like this, which weighs over 2 tons. It almost needs it. You can get smaller motors, which will be just fine for the power, but I think it's just part of the luxury feel when you have an excess amount of power to be able to just enjoy and dabble in, and you don't really have to be deep in the throttle box to actually squeeze all the power out of the S8. Now, thank you so much for watching. It's your support here on this channel. Thank you to everyone who subscribes and watches here, because this is how I get to show you cars as special as the Audi S8. And if you want to see more car content, make sure you follow us on TikTok and Instagram using @ProductReviewCars as the handle there. And also make sure to review your own car on productreview.com.au. My name's Cameron. I'll see you in the next one.